Today is Saturday and we made almond milk. It's one of the things that we do on Saturday. We soak the almonds the day before. We made a video about making the almond milk. And as a product of the almond milk, we have almond meal. Now, most people would just throw this away. But today we are going to make a bread or cake with it. It's not like traditional bread or traditional cake, but it is a version of a bread / cake that we make with this, and it tastes delicious and it makes our Saturday. So here are the ingredients. We're going to use the almond milk in it. We are going to use the almond meal in it. I have a cup of dried cranberries, which are pure sugar. They're not healthy. You can use regular cranberries and that adds a different flavor to it. We also have dates. The dates are going to be the sweetness in the cake. We have bananas to make it a little bit more moist. The bananas will act like what oil would act. We're not going to put any salt, oil, or sugar in this cake. And in order to make it more cakey, we have masa harina. Now you can use any wholemeal flour for this, but we're going to put about 3/4 of a cup of masa harina in it, and it is going to come out very cakey and very good. Let's get started. So the first step is we are going to take the almond milk, the dates, and the bananas. We're going to put them in the blender, and we are going to blend them up and make a liquid, a sweet liquid to put into the almond meal. Here we go. 2 cups of almond milk. Or less to your taste. I'm going to cut these dates because they have a seed in them. Now be careful with the knife, but you don't have to go too far in. But you get this little seed in here, that would ruin the blender. So I'm going to put that right there. If it has a stem, which none of these do, it might have a stem on the top that you would have to take off also, but you just want the meat in the blender. So I'm just going to drop that right in. Then I'm going to put the bananas in. And you can use as many bananas as you want. These are a little ripe for us, but they're just going to go right in there. And now we're going to blend it up. Make sure you put on the lid. You don't want bananas flying all over the kitchen. And here we go. Now, if you want nuts in your bread, which I love, you can take a handful to a cup of walnuts or any other type of nuts and just pulse the blender to chop them up a little bit in this process. You don't have to get an entire food processor dirty when you've already got the blender dirty. So that's what I like. However, Jacie doesn't like nuts in her bread, so we're not going to put them in. As you can see, we've already put the cranberry in with the almond meal, and we're just going to pour this in right like this. Looks good already. I bet you that's very sweet. And I will be tasting that to see how sweet that is. Okay, so we're going to take the masa harina, which is basically just corn flour, and we're going to put it in here. You could use a clean measuring cup, but that's fine. You'll see how I do it without a clean measuring cup. So that's about 2/3 of a cup. You don't need a whole bunch. Then you just dump it in there. And we'll get a little bit more milk with this. And this is going to turn into a batter very quickly. So you want this to become the consistency of a batter, and that's what this is right now, and everything's mixed in there real good. If you had nuts, they'd be mixed in there really well. Also, if you need to put a little bit more of the masa harina or a whole meal flour to make it a little bit less liquidy, that would be fine, but you can also just bake it for a little bit longer. So this is ready to go into the baking dish and be baked. Now at this point, if you have a fancy bread baking pan, you can use that. I recommend that you don't use non-stick. I also recommend that you don't use parchment paper, and that can be a little bit difficult. So we prefer glass baking dishes. And we just happen to have a 1.5 liter glass container. I'm just going to dump this in. Doesn't need any oil. Now, it will get a little bit difficult to clean, as Jacie will attest. It can be a little difficult to clean. I think with just a good soak after you've baked it, it cleans up pretty well. So you don't have to worry about putting any oil or anything like that in it. It's got the bananas, which substitute for an oil. It's got the almonds, which have oil in them, and it has the almond milk, which has oil in it also. So you're not going to have a huge problem with cleanup. So we're just going to dump this right in here. It's not going to rise, so you don't have to worry about it rising out of the pan. And it's ready to go into the oven. So we have our little oven here, and you can use a big oven that's built into the wall or a little oven like this. We're just going to put it in right here. I'm going to make sure that it's on about 200 degrees Celsius, that it is both elements are going to heat up and down. If you just put the bottom ones on, it's going to burn to the dish. If you just put the top one on, the top's going to burn. So if you put both of them on, it's even enough that it does not burn at all. This is a 60-minute timer, and we go ahead and just put it in for 60 minutes. And what's going to come out of there is some really delicious vegan bread/cake. So I just took this out of the oven. It baked for an hour. And you can see the cranberries in there. You can see that it really does look like a bread. My wife and I just take a spoon and dig out a spoonful and eat it like that. Anyway, this is our bread cake. The almond meal that is left over from the almond milk, this is what we do with it, and it does taste wonderful.